A tornado outbreak is going to take place across the United States, but not today, not tomorrow, but Monday. We will dive right into things right now with the day one outlook. We do actually have two marginal risks for parts of Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Then another one up here along the East Coast. Damaging winds, large hail, and a brief tornado or two is going to be possible in the plains today, and would not be surprised to see a small upgrade back here in Texas. I don't know why it's so laggy, but a small upgrade back there in Texas and New Mexico for some damaging wind and large hail. There's the tornado risk today, the severe wind and hail outlook. Now, moving on to severe weather for tomorrow, until we have an extremely large day to marginal risk that extends all the way up from the border of Canada all the way back to the border of Mexico. Very big risk, but a slight risk is in play across the middle to the part of the northern extent. Damaging winds, large hail, and an isolated tornado is going to be possible. As you can tell, we do have that tornado outlook in play, and we are talking about an upgrade to a 5% by the SPC. Severe wind and hail. Now, here's the big day. We have yet again a huge risk. A marginal risk does extend all the way back from portions of Texas all the way back up to the Canada border. So a very big severe weather risk is in play. And as you can tell, we do have a slight risk in play. Now, there is questions remaining about this area for the most part. So we are watching if any storms are able to fire along the dry line. They are going to be severe. Now, there's a low chance that your house gets hit back here in Oklahoma and Texas by these storms, but if they do, long track tornadoes possible, huge hail, and some pretty damaging winds. You can tell we do have a moderate risk of severe weather in play back here in portions of Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. Now, this enhanced risk is also in play, and I'm not ruling out it getting added a bit more into portions of Oklahoma just for the chance of some damaging winds, large hail, and a strong tornado or two possible. And that I feel would get our moderate risk pushed out to that area. Too early to talk about what the high risk and if a high risk will be issued, but watching it very closely. As you can tell, we do have a hatched risk of severe weather all the way back into portions of Texas, all the way back into our northern extent of the moderate risk, which is excluded from that. Now, severe weather does not stop there, as if we go in and take a look at the day 4 outlook, we have yet again another huge 15% risk. Watching it, but it looks more of a disorganized threat. Then you can tell back here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area along the Red River and in the Arklatex region, we are seeing yet again another 15% risk. Moving on to the models, what it could look like today in the plains. You can tell this morning we do have storms. Those will start to bow out a bit. We are watching for that damaging wind, large hail, and isolated tornado risk. But nothing too crazy. And as you can tell, we do actually have some pretty intense supercells look to fire. Question remaining is, are these going to be able to stay intense, and are they going to be able to be long track producing those damaging winds and large hail, maybe a brief tornado or two. Moving on to surface-based Cape. Today, we're watching for this surge of instability, but as you can tell here, we kind of do have a dead zone back here in the Texas Panhandle. So that is where our storms are going to be, so that is something that we are lacking. And that's what we need to have storms, is we need that cape, that instability. That's the fuel to the storms. significant tornado parameter today is on the lower side. So it's not going to be like what we've seen across these past 2 days where we do have a few long track tornadoes. But we are watching it very closely. Now, moving on to the HRRR here on the East Coast. You can tell if we go ahead and play this forward, up here in portions of Pennsylvania, back through portions of North Carolina, we are watching for these storms right here to fire off and kind of move into more of a line to a semi-discrete mode. Damaging winds and large hail are the main factors, but I think we could have an isolated tornado or two. So I'm watching it extremely closely. But nothing is really sticking out too crazy. And I didn't even pull up the significant tornado parameter here because I checked and it is near zero everywhere. Not that much instability either. So we're lacking two things there on the East Coast. Now, if we go ahead and take a look here at the European model, you can get that off your screen there. You can tell our severe weather events are going to take place. And here's the Euro for this system. You can tell it has more of a Boeing segment in play instead of a discrete mode up here. And I do think that this will come true. I think we're going to have supercells at first that turn into a Boeing segment. And we are yet again watching down here in Oklahoma for any storm to develop that could pose a higher tornado risk. So I do think a enhanced risk of severe weather is possible, depending on once we get the short-term model guidance. As you can tell, European was going along with it, and then we get our line again that's going to push out. So watching it very closely. Now moving on to the GFS, which we can look at quite a few more things. We can actually look at instability on the GFS, unlike the European. So as you can tell, we go ahead and move ahead. That is today's event. Now here, once we get into Monday here, this time frame, the GFS, pardon me, the GFS has been more on board with storms in Oklahoma, and the European was at first. So we're watching that extremely closely, as anything can happen in either of those regions. So that is why we have pulled up our surface-based cape on this long-range model, as it is going to be more accurate here in the midterms. But you can tell we are going to get a surge of instability, and I will say it is quite a bit up here in Iowa. I mean, 3,772 joules per kilogram. That is quite a lot. Tornado possible hazard type. Not a large totograph, but we have a critical angle on the storm slinky, about 80 degrees. And even back in Oklahoma, there's still a decent amount of cape, around 3,253 joules per kilogram. That is probably going to come with a tornado possible tag. It is, so watching it as this sounding actually has the cap breaking. So that is something we are watching too in Oklahoma. We are watching in western Oklahoma if storms will form. So if we take a sounding back here and see if the cap breaks, it does have the cap breaking, but storms are going to be more elevated if that happens. So watching it extremely closely, as I had said. Moving on to the dew points, we're going to see that we are going to have a ton of moisture pulled. As you can tell here, we actually do here in Oklahoma get dew points Monday around 60 to 70. Yeah, these are 70-degree dew points in Oklahoma. And as you can tell, just a huge surge of moisture So we are watching it extremely closely, like I said, if we may need an enhanced risk back in Oklahoma, or maybe even a moderate risk if our short-term models are on par for a severe weather outbreak or supercell outbreak in Oklahoma. Just make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and I will always try and keep you posted with the latest. Bye.